about that, more than happy to answer them. And we also have one of our top service providers, because with e-residency, you also need to have a private sector company that can actually help you establish and manage your company as you go through your journey as an e-resident. So we have one office, that's the name of the company. And you see e-Residency, one office on the logos of the presentation, that's why. So I think we'll just move forward with the presentation. I'll give you guys an overview of what is e-Residency, how it really works. Probably some of you already know the basics, but I'll still go over them, and then we'll go deeper into e-Residency versus some other options that are out there, and how everything works. So just to go over everything, e-Residency is a government-issued digital ID card by the Estonian government. Estonia is part of the EU, NATO, OECD, all the important clubs that really make it fully an integrated member of the Eurozone. The currency that operates here is also the euro. And that is one of the biggest advantages of e-Residency, because after you get the government-issued digital ID from the Estonian government, you get access to around 1,500 e-services, because Estonia has one of the world's most advanced e-governance platforms. Citizens and residents who live in Estonia access anything starting from e-health to e-law to the e-land registry. So everything's hosted online. And that's the reason that the government here works so efficiently. And so the government about 4 years ago now decided that if we can do this, why can't we extend this opportunity, at least for entrepreneurs around the world, to be able to join our digital nation and be able to access all these services 100% online. And so that's what led to the birth of e-Residency. And over the past 4 years, it's almost grown to about 70,000 e-residents from, I think, 170 countries around the world. So it's grown very massively, and it's only growing at an exponential rate. And of course, the whole point of it is really for entrepreneurship. And since it's all hosted online, it makes perfect sense for remote workers who want to turn into remote entrepreneurs, because that, I think, is a more long-term strategy if you're really trying to build something that's sustainable. And at the same time, if you already have something where you have a remote team or a remote business, it makes you have a sort of a base digitally in a location somewhere in the world where everything's easy to manage, documents can be signed digitally, they're legally accepted, and at the same time you're in a safe onshore location in the world's largest single market, which is the European Union. So
I have a quick question.
Sure, yeah, absolutely, Liam.
So you talk about it's being accepted everywhere.
Yes.
Is that truly true? Because this is a question that a lot of people are asking me with regards to e-Residency.
Yeah.
Whenever you hear about, hey, you know what, I got a Cayman's Island account that I can totally set you up with, right? Like that's a conversation that happens particularly around a lot of money management people, high net individuals, and the vast majority of the time, it's a scam, or it's going to get you in some legal hot water in the future, particularly for people that are in countries like Canada or the United States, where we have a very strict tax system. So my question to you is, in terms of this structure for e-Residency and then the corporate structure, has there been any conflicts as of yet, or it's because Estonia is part of the EU that it's just got this extra capability that other places just don't have?
Okay, so excellent question, and very valid in the current day scenario where things are structured around the world. Let me just say, I mentioned this word that Estonia is an onshore destination, right? So if you're looking for an offshore tax haven, e-Residency is not for you, right?
Got it.
Estonia is a fully integrated member of not just the European Union, of also the OECD. And so we follow all the rules that are established in terms of international taxation, etc., as they apply across the world. And if it comes down to taxation, yes, Estonia has a very interesting tax system, because Estonia is also the per capita startup hub in Europe. right? It has the highest number of per capita startups. And the reason why the government introduced a tax system, so in Estonia, there is no real corporate tax, which means that there is no tax on reinvested profits or undistributed income in your company. So till the time you don't take money out of your company, you do not pay any tax. Having said that, there's many exceptions to that rule because we are fully compliant with international taxation. What that means is, let's say if you're based in, I don't know, Germany, and you have all your customers in Germany, and you just established a company in Estonia so you can benefit from the tax, that's actually wrong because the place of effective management and also the primary location where you have your economic activity happening is Germany. And all you're trying to do is evade tax in Germany. And in that case, you are still liable to pay tax in Germany, even though your company may be in Estonia. In that case, the only thing that you would end up benefiting from is the lower bureaucracy and the ability to be able to manage your company remotely from anywhere because of the digital services. That is the only benefit. So yes, it'll minimize the cost for you, but you're not going to necessarily benefit from the tax environment in Estonia. However, let's say you are based in Germany, but you're traveling most of the time. Perhaps sometimes you're in Canada, maybe sometimes you're in Indonesia, and most of your clients are all over the world. Then in that case, if you have a company in Estonia, most probably your revenues are coming from everywhere, your economic activity is generated in multiple regions, and then the corporate tax rules of Estonia would apply, right?
Got it. Okay.
Why I want to give you this example a little more deeply is because one of the most important things, and I'll go over it later during our presentation also, is that you need to always, when you start your business, wherever that may be, in this case, it's just easier process-wise, but you still need to have a tax consultation, right? And that's the reason that we also have, for example, private sector service providers like One Office. So you've done all your planning, you've understood your business model and how tax applies to your specific case, and then you've structured your business, and then everything just works smoothly after that.
Got it. I understand that perspective. Basically, I think there's just a question here from Juanisa, she's a UI UX designer from the United States, and she's basically asking how e-residency would work for her as a freelancer. Basically, the current political climate in Brexit and other EU countries might follow on to create the long-term acceptance of e-residency and in One Office by extension. But I think I think the majority of people here, and I'd love to be able to hear it in the chat for people that are hopefully able to answer this question. Most of us are probably not doing local businesses. They're probably all working remotely. So as an example, we have a software company, and I think we operate in over 100 countries all over planet Earth. So in that case, we would theoretically be able to take that cash, put it into Estonia, and then it's not taxed until we actually distribute it. Is that the correct interpretation that I got from you, Varun?
Exactly. In essence, you don't have to pay tax unless you distribute dividends. So you pay out the profits.
That's totally awesome for people that are as an example, just to kind of give you guys an idea of.
I just want to mention this, right? Yep. What you can do with the funds that you have, you can keep reinvesting them into various different activities. Right? Let's say you finally decided that it makes sense for you to have an office somewhere. So you can open an office and register under your Estonian company, and obviously that's a business investment. So that actually is an asset that belongs to the business, and therefore not still pay tax, right? So there's a lot of things that you can kind of claim under your company. And I'm just going to go over the basics, right? I want to go over the overview, and then I'll come to the questions, right? Because ideally after this call, everyone has the opportunity to actually even schedule a one-on-one session with One Office, which is, like I said, one of the top service providers for e-residency, and really ask questions that might be very specific to your case. And the whole point of what we're doing right now is just to give you a brief understanding so that you have these questions, and then you can actually schedule a private session with one office and get everything answered. So if we can just move to the next slide, I'll just go through it. Right, so who is it for? I think we already answered most of it. So remote workers who want to turn to remote entrepreneurs. Now, how I explain this is, let's say you're working for a company remotely, they pay, and let's say you live in Indonesia, for example, for the time being. And whenever you receive a salary from them, there is a difference between, let's say, personal taxation and corporate taxation. So when you receive a salary from them, you're actually paying taxes in Indonesia because you're based there. And maybe if you're earning, I don't know, for example, 5,000 euros, you don't actually want to pay perhaps a 20% tax on the entire 5,000 euros you receive, because you don't need 5,000 euros to live in Indonesia. Maybe you just need 2,000 euros. So why are you wasting money and paying tax on the entire 5,000? And it's literally making the situation for you that you have more or less a hand-to-mouth situation, because every month you get paid, you receive the money, you pay tax on it, and then probably you save a little bit, but most of you spend. The smarter way of working is you establish a company somewhere where it's easy for you to manage, there's low bureaucracy, there's lower costs. You have this company, that company is the one that invoices your client, it receives the revenues. From that company, you pay yourself a salary wherever you are as much as you want and need, right? So from your company, perhaps you pay yourself a 3,000 euro salary, pay 20% of it, 600 euros gone, and then you have 2,400 euros for you to spend while you're in Indonesia. And the rest of the money stays in your company, and gradually you build a reserve. Perhaps you can start doing bigger projects now because you can hire more people, and you go from being a remote worker to a remote entrepreneur to truly being a remote business with many people around the world. And that's a more long-term sustainable model, right? So e-Residency is entirely built for such people and such companies. The next one, of course, if you're a solopreneur. So if you're a freelancer and you want to go from being a freelancer to being a one-man company, it's definitely meant for you. And I think that was also Juanisa's question. So it's absolutely meant for you. Talking about political scenario, etc., nothing's happening in Estonia. Everything's fine. It's part of the EU. It will be. And I think as long as everything stays fine in the world, there's always the risk that things can always go wrong anywhere. But right now, as things go, the UK is Brexiting, but Estonia is very much part of the EU and one of the newer members. So I am very optimistic that it's still going to be part of it. And it's a small country, so it doesn't make any sense for Estonia to leave the EU either, right? There's only 1.3 million people who live in Estonia, so the EU is a very important part of what Estonia means and its role is in the world today. So I hope I answered your question there. Freelancers, of course, make sense. You can have multiple clients with one hub, and I think it becomes easier for them to actually deal with a single unit than you moving around all the time. Location independent businesses, perhaps you already have a location independent business and you just want an easier and more efficient way of managing it. So it can even be a startup where you have multiple people working for you around the world. Something like Time Doctor, Liam and I, we've talked about it. I think Liam can give you some insights into how he's been trying to structure things and how he thinks Estonia is perhaps going to be a better base for him. EU businesses. So in the EU, most of Western Europe, the costs for starting a company and managing them on an ongoing business can be quite high. There can be lots of bureaucratic requirements. Most EU countries require you to have a local director or a local country manager. And that's a very special thing about e-Residency and Estonia. If you're an e-resident, you start your company, you don't need anyone. You are 100% in charge of your company, and no one gets to take any stake or interfere in your affairs. So that's an incredible thing, which most countries don't offer, not just in the EU, even outside actually. And of course, non-EU businesses, it's great because it gives them access to the world's largest single market of 500 million people. And consumer penetration in Europe is one of the highest. So it can be extremely, extremely good. Can we go to the next slide, please? Right, the benefits of e-Residency, I mostly covered them. It's entirely location independent. You establish your company, and you can start using fintech solutions to get access to TransferWise or Payoneer or other fintech solutions that are actually beating banks at their own game because they're so much more efficient since they're digitized, and that's one of the biggest advantages. One Office, interestingly enough, is actually a partner with TransferWise, Payoneer, and Holvi, a new fintech upcoming fintech company based out of Finland. Low startup and management costs. We'll show you the costs as we go along. Actually, Christine's going to talk about it. Low bureaucracy. Everything's online. Don't need to deal with people. Don't need to kind of discuss and figure out everything as you go along. It's very structured. Things are simple. Speak to your service provider. They'll explain to you how it's really supposed to happen. And from there, you establish your company and you're good to go. It takes actually, I think, something like an hour or 2 hours to complete the modalities once you have your e-Residency card, and then a day for you to receive the confirmation from the government that your business has been registered. So very simple. Taxation, a very efficient tax system. You can file your taxes online too. 3 clicks in 5 minutes, you're done. I do it every year wherever I am. I think Christina does too, and it's really, really simple. And everything's already calculated. Yeah, I know. And the reason why it's so efficient is because it's the Estonian e-governance platform that's the real innovation that led to all this, right? So it already works for residents and citizens of Estonia, and now that you become an e-resident, you get access to it because everything is connected to each other using a very interesting cross-operability platform. It's called Xroad. It's one of the biggest innovations in e-governance, which Estonia did with the private sector. And because it tracks everything in real time, by the time you actually have to file your taxes, everything's already calculated, everything's done. You just have to go there, sign. In fact, Estonia right now is working on the next phase of this, where taxation would be automated entirely. So everything would just get paid, and then you can go back if you have some questions. Otherwise, everything's done, right? And high efficiency, right? All this, what it really leads to is that it helps you save money, of course. At the same time, the biggest value for an entrepreneur today, I think, is time. You don't need to have board meetings in a certain location, sit together. If you have something to vote on, you can all just do it digitally. It's valid legally in Estonia, recognized by the government. So it really saves you so much time flying back and forth. I mean, I think people have been waiting for something like this, and it's absolutely incredible. So for me, it's a no-brainer to actually, if you're working remotely or if you want to, this is the first step. And then you actually start growing your business, right? Establish, manage, and grow. That's how I say it. Challenges, simple yet not so simple. One of the main reasons why I say that is because of taxes. Because in the beginning, you really have to plan everything. And taxation can be a bit complicated because of the way international taxation works globally, which we have to, all kind of follow. Business activity planning. Initially, if you're doing, I don't know, something in tourism, you might need to have some kind of tourism license if you're trying to float a tour or something like that. So you need some advice and you need to figure out how it's going to happen. In this case, it's a challenge. It's not a hurdle to stop you from actually starting your company. So if you have this challenge, go to a service provider, One Office, and ask them, can you help us with it? And they'll help you and find you and guide you, how you're supposed to move forward with it. Tax planning, comparative analysis needs to happen. You perhaps want to compare a few different locations and see what would be ideal for you if your core focus is taxation. Possibility of using digital tools is limited. So yes, everything can happen online. But for example, if you want to open a traditional bank account in Estonia, then you need to actually be verified once in person in Estonia. So that's still a challenge because that's just the way banking, anti-money laundering laws are structured. So you still need to do that. And then payment gateway integration possibilities. So like there's fintech solutions that are offered as part of the package with e-Residency, or let's say with One Office actually. At the same time, some people have trouble using payment gateways because some payment gateways don't have full integration possibilities with fintech solutions. They really need you to work with a traditional bank. Still a possibility, still a solution, but then you'll have to spend a little more time coming to Estonia, getting yourself physically identified. And once your bank account's open, then you're good to go, right? So these are the few challenges that I see when you're kicking off and managing your company. Could we go to the next slide, please? Why Estonia? I put all the rankings here. I think you can all see them. I always say this, rankings, you have to go deep into the metrics because I think they're always skewed. But I've been living in Estonia for 3 years, and I worked 1 year before that also for the Estonian embassy. And I mean, I can tell you, I even got an apartment last year, and the process was just so smooth because of the digital tools, because everything can be digitally signed. I have, since I moved to Estonia, never signed a document physically, which is great. I think it's not just about the ease, it's also the fact that I think we're all socially very conscious, and it's very ecologically friendly, and it really saves you so much money and time from the part of you as an entrepreneur, but also from the part of the government as an administration unit. And that's the reason that all the costs are so low to actually start and manage your company in Estonia. Can we go to the next slide, please? How to apply? Very simple process. I think it's even easier than opening an account with some email service providers. So you just need to go to apply.gov.ee. You can click on that link. And then you submit an application, pay 100 euros as the application fee for e-Residency. Takes you about 10 minutes, I think, to fill it out and submit it. You will receive an email confirmation that you've successfully submitted your application from the Estonian Police and Border Guard. So when you apply for e-Residency, your application goes into the pipeline of the Estonian Police and Border Guard. They run a background check on you. Most probably you pass it. We have a very low rejection rate, about 1% of the applicants get rejected. And once you're done with that, you receive a confirmation 3 to 6 weeks later that your e-Residency has been approved. A couple of weeks after that, you will receive your e-Residency digital ID card with a little kit and a card reader at an Estonian embassy or consulate. That actually also might be one of the challenges for some people who do not have an Estonian embassy or consulate near them. We are working right now on introducing new collection centers. One of them already exists in South Korea, in Seoul. And I think the next ones are going to open up in a few months from now in 3 or 4 other locations, and it'll gradually grow. But just have a look, and perhaps you can make a trip somewhere close by, wherever you live, to collect your e-Residency card. And once you have your card, contact your service provider, and you're good to go. You always need to have a service provider, whether it's one office, which is among the top ones, or whether it's someone else. And the reason for this is because the service providers have a license from the Financial Intelligence Unit of the Estonian Police and Border Guard, that they are compliant with all kinds of anti-money laundering and terrorist financing directives of the European Commission. So it's actually at the EU level that these guys are compliant. If they actually work with you, that means that they will guide you and authenticate your business and provide you all the services that are in compliance with the requirements of this program, and also of running a company in Estonia legally, right? So that's the idea, and that's why we have private sector involved with this project. What happens next? Once you have your card, you start managing your company, choose the relevant services from one office. Depending on your business, you might need different kind of accounting services. You might need to have a tax consultation. I 100% recommend a tax consultation. I think it's an extremely important part of starting and managing a remote business. I'm actually running a remote business myself now, so I know it. And then regular accounting, you should always do it on an ongoing basis and not once a year, because then it'll just end up costing you a lot and it'll be very confusing and stressful for you. So do it on a routine basis. VAT registration, maybe you want to be VAT registered in the EU if you're crossing a certain threshold of revenues. maybe you do not. Your service provider can really help you understand that. You need to always file your annual report, regardless of the fact whether you're earning any revenues or not. And the service providers have professional accountants who will actually do it for you so that it's easier. And yeah, the last point about the share capital contribution. So you might or might not need to have a share capital contribution in the beginning. If you're multiple shareholders, maybe you want to actually have the share capital contribution done, which is of 2,500 euros a minimum in Estonia. But normally a lot of people just delay it and postpone it for a year if they start on their own, if you're the only sole owner and manager of the company right now. And the reason for it is because anyway, in the first year, you cannot pay yourself dividends. So after 1 year, when you want to pay yourself dividends, you need to have the share capital contribution paid, but you can still start the company with zero contribution, right? So that's the reason for the share capital contribution, that after a year you can pay it in. And in any case, it's not a very big amount. So during the course of running your company during the first year, when you receive your revenues, you can just kind of translate that into your contribution.
And this is in essence just purchasing the shares of that corporate structure, correct? The share capital contribution?
No, you already own the shares.
Okay.
But it's just, giving it
for people that don't understand it, because I got 2 questions from people that don't exactly know what that means.
Okay, so you need to have a minimum asset level in your company. Every country has it.
Mm-hmm.
Estonia is one of the unique ones which lets you actually start with zero, right? And actually you can delay it as long as you want. But before you start withdrawing dividends, which literally is the profits of the company, you need to have reached a minimum level of cash flow.
Got it.
In the company. And in Estonia, it's established at the threshold of 2,500 euros.
And that's not a cost, that's a deposit.
No, you still own that, it's still your money.
Right.
So let's say once you reach this level and you registered the 2,500 euros, you can withdraw all of it. But the fact is that you reach this level once. It's in some ways a technicality, and it just needs to be done. And that's it. I would just say it's a technicality, and once you reach it, that's it. But it's not a cost at all. It's not something that you need to pay and then it's gone. It's still your money. You can always take it out back. Right?
Yeah, I want to add just that the share capital is a founder's contribution. So it is, you can, the company can use it for company's business expenses or business purposes, but it is the founder's personal contribution to the company. And once you have done it, then you can take out money from the company, distribute profit and dividends.
Yeah, that's something that I think not many people really understand when they first set up their corporations, that they have to make that initial deposit. And it's not, you're not paying, you're basically moving money from an individual to a corporation. But if you completely own that corporation, then you still technically own all the results of that corporation's activities, which would be the 2,500 euro that you're going to deposit. Some people were confused about that.
And as I said, you do not need to have the 2,500 euros paid in when you're starting your company. You only need to have that level reached once when you want to pay out dividends 12 months down the line, right? So when you're kicking your business off, this is not a cost. And at no point does it actually become a cost. It just becomes a technical requirement for you to register it, and then you can just take the money back out. So that's it.
Can I ask one other question here? We've got from David.
Sure.
For you, Varun, which is, David is planning to move physically to Estonia. So he is asking, will we still be able to establish a company via the e-Residency program to benefit from its location independent aspect, or is it exclusively available to non-residents?
Okay, so yes, most people who before they move to Estonia, so Estonia also, for example, has a startup visa program, which is completely disconnected from residency, right? It's a different program for innovative startups, which have a repeatable and unique business model to actually incubate and accelerate their project in Estonia. However, what happens is, because the corporate part of it is very much connected, a lot of people actually become e-residents first, they establish their company, and then when they start running their company, they register as a startup and they end up moving to Estonia. Once you move to Estonia, you actually get a residence card, which also has a digital ID integrated in it. So you don't need your e-residency card anymore because you have this residence card, which is the same thing, right? So yeah, that's how it works. But let's say you decide to move away after, I don't know, 3 years, then you can again switch back to e-residency and still continue managing your company in Estonia remotely, right? So it's never going to become a challenge or an issue just because you started your company in Estonia. So e-residency can be the first step to start your business, and then gradually you have to still follow all other processes as it is for everyone else to actually move here. And e-residency doesn't have any relationship to physical residency or visas. That is still a separate process. But yes, if you have a very good business and you're generating economic value, it might be helpful as a consideration when you apply for the visa or the residence permit or whatever it might be.
This has definitely been, I mean, we're going to get into the second half of the presentation with Christina, but we've, just to kind of give you the side of the story that I'm looking at as a personal business owner. Every year we have US Corps and Canadian Corps, and we have to decide, are we going to make profit this year? Or are we going to reinvest everything back inside the business? And it does expose you to a certain amount of risk if you're investing all your capital back inside of the business every single year. Just the advantage of being able to only tax basically dividends as opposed to taxing direct income can provide you a really great advantage if you're a tech startup, as an example, like us, where we might want to have an extra $1 million, $2 million in payroll, as an example, sitting in our account that we're keeping for emergencies, but we don't necessarily want to distribute to the shareholders. So, I mean, in comparison to the US model, right now, we've actually, this year, and it's the 8th year of business for us, it's the first year we ever decided to take profit as a business. And we did in part because of the and love them or hate them, the Trump policies with regards to lower corporate taxes. So it really can move the needle for people, and for anybody that is looking for a capital intensive business, like a SaaS software business, as an example, not being taxed on income, basically your gross profits, is a really great model because you invest a lot of capital at the beginning, and then you very slowly start to generate on an exponential curve more and more revenue. And every year that you can hold off on making profit, you're going to produce more profit long term. So very exciting model. I'm pretty excited about it. Varun, are you handing off to Christina at this point?
Actually, I would propose that if anybody else has questions to Varun, then we can take those, and then
for sure
after that, because it's a hot topic, as I understand.
Anybody else have any questions? I'm actually quite interested as to why Seoul is the first location for e-residency. That doesn't seem to make sense to me, but maybe there's a whole bunch of South Koreans that are just chomping at the bit to be able to get Estonian e-residency.
All right, I see one question from Juanisa saying, will you get taxed by Estonia and the EU or just Estonia? The easiest way for me to answer that is telling you perhaps the American example. So either you're taxed by the place where you live in the US. So if, let's say you're based out of San Francisco, you'll get taxed in San Francisco. And that's the tax you pay in San Francisco because San Francisco is part of California and California is part of the US. And it's exactly the same thing in Estonia. So your company is based in Estonia, and Estonia is part of the European Union, which is kind of like the United States, right? It's United States and it's European Union. So that's the structure. So you only get taxed in Estonia. There is no EU tax because EU is made up of member states like Estonia, Germany, Spain, Italy, Finland, all these other countries. If anyone has any more questions, feel free to keep posting them. I'll hand over now to Christina, who's going to actually go into much more details than I did. I just wanted to give you guys an overview of things, and now you'll understand what a service provider really does and can provide you. So over to you, Christina.
Thank you, Varun. Hi, everybody, and I'm really glad to present what OneOffice does. My name is Christina, and I have been with OneOffice already for more than 7 years. And I'm a head of sales, and I have been in sales business in OneOffice for more than already like 5 years. So speaking a little bit what OneOffice does, we provide business services for foreign entrepreneurs, and all of our clients do business abroad. It means international or global business. We are a group starting from Estonia. We started about 11 years ago, and we have expanded ever since to other EU countries like Sweden, Finland, UK, Latvia, and Lithuania. We provide full services for our clients, starting from consulting on taxes and company structures, company establishments, and to everyday routine accounting and annual report services. In Estonia, we have over 1,400 companies. Because of the e-Residency, they come from all over the world, from more than 70 countries. And we cover 13% of all e-resident companies in our company. So when we speak about setting up a company in Estonia, there are a couple of responsibilities or obligations that you have to be aware of. First thing is that when setting up Estonian company, you need to have the contact person and local address. And here is where the service provider like us can help you out. Not anybody can be a contact person. Contact person can be only a licensed service provider or a law firm. So it isn't that a friend can be a contact person. And every Estonian company has to be registered to Estonian address. You cannot use a foreign address. It is very similar to the banks that all the service providers have to collect some information about their clients. So the KYC, know your client, and due diligence is very important. Service providers are your friends, not somebody who is just poking or extracting some weird information from you. So if you have this on a company and there's certain requirements by the law set on the service providers, then help them to achieve and met these requirements. Every company needs to do accounting. The only question is when the accounting is done, whether it's done on a monthly basis. This is usually the case where a company has Estonian VAT number, or when a company pays salaries in Estonia. And there's also a case that you can do the accounting only once per year for the annual report. Annual report is mandatory even if the company hasn't had any business activities. So if the company has just stayed in a dormant status, then still once per year the company has to let the government know what happened during the year. So it can be saying that no business activities were done, we don't plan to do any business next year. Annual report is submitted in Estonian, and that's why also you might need to use the service provider for that. And then there's the taxes. As Varun already mentioned, Estonia has very good, stable and easy tax system, but the taxes of the company should be paid where you actually create the value, where your permanent establishment is. There you should pay the taxes and comply with their regulations. So setting up the company in Estonia is the first step is to get the e-Residency. As Varun already mentioned, the application process is really easy. Only thing is that you have to wait until the card arrives to the pickup location and you have to collect it. And you have to collect it in person because when you go there on site, they will take the fingerprints, so your biometric data, so nobody else can actually go and collect it on your behalf. Then you have to choose a name for the company. In Estonia, you cannot register a name which is already registered or in use. and you cannot use a trademark. Every popular word which is protected by the trademark will be rejected by the registry. Third thing is to choose business activity and figure out the ownership and management structure. So it basically means if you know what kind of business you do, then a service provider can help you to choose the suitable field of activity code. And speaking about ownership and then board members, so you just need to decide, are you the sole entrepreneur, only founder and only board member, or do you want to include partners? And the board members are the ones who can represent the company. So whether you want to be have the only right to represent the company, or whether you include somebody else there. And once you have already decided on these details, then you can register the company online. You have to have the card, e-Residency card physically. You have to have the card reader. And if you collect your e-Residency card, then you get the kit. There's instructions inside which let you know which kind of software you need to install and so on. Once the company is registered, then you can move on to opening an account, whether it's a traditional bank account or whether it's fintech account like TransferWise or Holiday. So this is up to you, and this decides solely what kind of business you do, where you do it, and what is your background. And then you are basically good to go. Even I would say that some start the business activities before they have the account, because they have already set up some other payment methods, or they don't need the bank account right away. The company formation fees that we have, so we have an online portal. It means that you can do it very easily, really quickly on your own. If from the previous slide you have all the information there, then you just need to fill in the fields, and you pay one-time setup fee, which includes the state fee, and you can from the portal choose the legal address and contact person service. The fee 290 is per year, and if you want, you can by one click you can also opt in for our accounting service and also for the business IBAN account. Business IBAN account is free of charge, but if you go for traditional banks in Estonia, for instance, then they charge some kind of fee for onboarding foreign related persons to their clientele. And so Estonia is one option, but you might figure whether Estonia is the best option for you. As I already showed, we have also office in UK. So I will introduce a little bit about how everything works in UK as well. So in UK, everything can be done online as well. There are no preconditions on registering a company. So if in Estonia you need to have the e-Residency card, you have to apply for that first. Then in UK, basically you could register the company already this evening if you had everything else figured out. And in UK, the minimum share capital is £1. As in Estonia, it was 2,500 euros. And in Estonia, you don't have to pay it in, and it's the same that in UK, you don't have to actually pay this £1 in to the company's account. The company's responsibilities are the same. Company has to have registered address, and in addition to that, the director's service address, if the directors are not located in UK or UK residents. Also, a company has to provide KYC and due diligence information to the service provider or banks. Accounting and annual accounts have to be done. And in addition to Estonia, there's also confirmation statement. But this is basically a simple statement confirming that ownership is the same, or let's say company's email address has changed and so on. This is done once per year as well. And of course, the taxes. In UK, you pay taxes for all the sales or all the revenue that you have made in the UK, but UK tax system is much more complicated than in Estonia. And in UK, you need to use more tax advisors or tax lawyers and then chartered accountants. in order to figure out what exactly where has to be paid. And it's also related to the location as well. It's not, there's very many local taxes that might apply in addition. Setting up the company is pretty much the same, minus the applying for the e-Residency card. You can check and choose the name, you choose the business activity and figure out the ownership and directors. Then we can register the company online. You don't have to be there. There's no digital signature needed. And from our portal, again, you can choose a business account and you can start business activities. So in UK, we also, when we have a company information portal in Estonia, then we launched the UK company formation portal also a couple of months ago in the UK. Here are the fees for company formation in the UK. As you can see, in UK, the company formation fee is much smaller, but the main difference comes from the state fee. In Estonia, just the state fee of the company registration is that much higher. Registered address and director's address is £250 per year. Plus VAT, and accounting is starting from £75, and again the business bank account is free of charge, which you can very easily choose from the portal. Here is the comparison of the costs. This might help you to make the decision. The setup fees are relatively smaller than in the UK, but the maintenance costs in the UK are again like twice or more higher than in Estonia. So you might want to consider which area to choose based on that. But what is most differences is that in Estonia you need the e-Residency, so this is kind of like precondition in order to do the online registration. But in UK you could start right away. In both countries you can do the online registration. There are no limitations on foreigners. Anybody can set up the company in Estonia and both in UK as well. Share capital, as I already mentioned, is €2,500 in one country, and in UK it's £1. You can use online banking. There's no regulation or rules that you have to use a traditional bank. And beside online banking, you can also open up a foreign bank account for your company. So there's nobody's going to tell you which kind of banking or account option you can have. In both countries, the company is usually registered within 1 or 2 working days, and it's very quick. If the registry doesn't have any questions or doesn't ask any amendments. In Estonia, since e-Residency is needed, then the e-Residency card is related to the digital signature. So this is needed in order to proceed and do all the steps. But in UK, there's no digital signature. The kind of security side of it is solved in another way. And just very briefly, tax system in Estonia is quite easy, but in UK it's more difficult. So Varun, you wanted to add something here about tax system?
Yes, absolutely. I just wanted to tell everyone, like, when you compare these costs, please focus on the fact that these are the startup and management costs for your business. At the same time, once you've done your tax consultations and planning, and you have everything structured tax-wise, what you need to really consider is how much tax would you end up paying, even though it's cheaper to start your business in the UK versus in Estonia. That's one consideration. But then again, let's say maybe you're an e-commerce seller and you sell on Amazon, or you're a physical commodities trader. It might make more sense for you to have your company based in the UK because, for Amazon, one of the largest marketplaces in Europe is the United Kingdom. And these are the different variables that you need to consider when you choose between the two countries. One has advantage in terms of maybe startup costs. The other one has advantages in terms of management, digital tools, and taxation. But for this, I would definitely recommend that you have a one-on-one conversation scheduled with one office as the service provider and discuss your options with them and then get moving. Having also mentioned this, you can already take a decision, because I think there's some kind of special offer that one office is running right now, where you get a discount on the startup cost of whatever company you want to start with. And even though you'll be applying for e-residency perhaps today and you only get the card maybe in a couple of months, you can already have the service package for starting and managing your company earlier. So this way, you know that once you straight move forward with your decisions, all your planning is done, tax so you've already mentally taken the decision, and then you don't end up wasting any time to actually move forward once you physically have the card with you. Did everyone get what I said?
Some parts of your last sentence was missing.
Yeah,
Can you?
it's coming in somewhat jumbled, but relatively
Can you hear
clear.
me now?
Yes, we can hear you just fine now.
Great. The last part that I was saying is that use the time in which perhaps you receive your e-resident card to just liaise with your service provider and forward with the creation of your company, etc. And you have all the planning tax-wise done, so that you can just straight away move forward with the decision, and you don't have to actually wait for taking the decision once you receive the card. So you already start with the decision-making process, instantly whenever you want, and you're welcome to write to Christina if you like, as one of those options.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Arun.
That. Okay,
yeah.
Great.
So continuing with my presentation. It's basically the same thing that Varun said. What you need to do is think to your business plan and business model. Seek help if you need to know more about taxation or legal structure, or which kind of jurisdiction to choose. We are happy to help you, and then can set up a Skype meeting or exchange emails about that. And once you have everything set, then basically you can start the company registration from our portal. And this is your first step in becoming a location independent entrepreneur, and having quite a ride, I would say. We are sharing here our promotional code. You get a 10% discount if you use RR Bali 10 in our portal, and also you can contact me for having a half an hour consultation, free consultation. We can have set a Skype call, and you can explain what you want to do, what kind of questions you have, and we can see from there how we can help and how to move forward from there.
Is that on the initial setup costs for the 10% discount? Like, what is that discount, or is it just all services?
Yeah, this is from the first setup costs. So in Estonia, we are speaking about usually the setup cost is 555 euros plus VAT. So the discount is 50 euros. And in UK, we speak about 279 pounds. So again, from 10%.
Got it. We have a couple questions.
Yeah.
And we're in QA mode now. So if you're still able to answer them all the way in Estonia, we have quite a few questions that are coming in. First one is from Dawakar Sharma. Don't know where you're from, Dawakar, but hopefully I pronounced your name correctly. Dressed it as sir. I think you're a madam, but regardless, we'll break through that. I want to start and register my import-export business company in Estonia, and I want to expand my import business globally from Estonia. I have a valid import-export business company license issued by Indian government from India. I am an e-resident of Estonia and having an e-residency card. Please confirm about the process.
Mm-hmm. So the process is easy. First of all, in Estonia, we don't have any special license or business registration for import-export business. The steps are register the company and start your business. So as easy as that. If you have like very specific questions about taxation or how to do things, then we can set up one-on-one meeting and then go over the steps like in a more detailed way.
Okay, and for anyone that's listening right now, we've got a question here. How can they book a Skype call with you? What's the process for that? Do you have to register at one office, or is there another way to do it?
Yeah, so I went to my next slide. So you can write to sales@oneoffice.co, but you can also, well, I will give out my personal email, which is Kristina@oneoffice.co. Kristina is spelled Kristina @oneoffice.co. So you can you can actually move to this slide so you can see how my name is spelled. And just reach out, let know that you attended the webinar, and we can set up the meeting. You can propose which time you prefer, and then we can work from there.
Okay, cool. I got another question here from Tibor. Tibor, I'd love to know where you're from too. Such interesting names. Question one, he's got a two-parter. Where do you suggest to have a tax consultant in the country of residency where I live, or where the company is located in Estonia, UK? Like, should you have a tax consultant in both countries, or if you set up your corporation in Estonia? I guess that really depends on the business as well, realistically, but maybe you can speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, so yes, it does depend on the business, and it does also depend what is your location country. Are we speaking about EU, or are we speaking about non-EU country? If you are speaking about EU, then one office can provide the tax advice. I'm like 99% sure. There might be some very case-sensitive specific details, but we can sort that out later on. But basically, you can always turn to one office to seek the advice. And if we see that there's also a need to include local tax experts from your residency country, then we will let you know that. But one of the challenges is actually not every tax advisor or tax attorney is not so familiar with the e-residency, with the concept of location independent business and digital nomadism. So you might, depending on your location or your country where you live in, you might end up getting rejected, saying that, oh, we don't do that, or we don't know that. Then, well, one office is actually where you can come and ask. And
I'm presupposing one office probably has representatives in most countries that you could hand off to be able to work in between.
We have some contacts, so if we cannot help, then perhaps we have a partner there in that country who can help. But we are also trying to build up more and more connections so that we can provide better services and full services for our clients as well.
So this is another question that I think actually kind of connects to my question, which is, what about taxation if the company sells products or services online? So do I need to pay taxes in the country where I live? And that's a really interesting problem/question for someone who sells software services, as an example, such as the company that I founded. Do you know where they live? Is that an issue? Do you need to actually deal with that local taxation? Or can you literally just say, I'm an Estonian corporation, I operate out of Estonia, there's 1.5 million people in Estonia, so realistically, all of my customers are foreign customers, and then I just run out of Estonia full time. So I'd love to hear about your perspective on that issue.
Yeah, so taxes are complicated, and they get more and more complicated as the business world evolves and becomes more location independent. And this is actually what our clients do, that they do online businesses. They live in one place, maybe they have employees in another place, maybe they are outsourcing a warehouse for their products from a third place. and then they have company in Estonia as well. And so go and figure where they should pay the taxes. There's this magic expression called permanent establishment. So it means that the company should pay taxes where the permanent establishment is created or is occurring. Now the question is, how do we determine where the permanent establishment is? So one thing is that, yes, depending on the board members or employees' location. So if you reside in certain country, then this can create permanent establishment for your Estonian company there. Second part is where your clients are actually located. If they're all over the world, then it makes things complicated again. Sometimes it can be as unimaginable thing like where your servers are located. So maybe you are buying servers from a fifth country and there is your permanent establishment. So that's why you say that taxes are complicated, taxes are case sensitive. What might apply to your friend apply necessarily for you. So in order to evaluate where the taxes should be paid, we have to map out exactly which countries are involved, what you do where, and so on. And based on that, the tax consultant will draft up the analysis all the situations and will say, we see tax risks here. This is where you should pay taxes. If you change the structure or business model, then you can save on taxes here and there and so on.
Got it.
That answered your question. So
yeah, that basically does. I think probably the short version of this is, if you sell software services digitally on the internet, pretty much the answer at this point is it's still kind of gray. And it's a very interesting system because we're a global corporation, but we're not really a global corporation. You know, you can have a company with 3 developers and that can be serving 1 million users, but where are those users coming from? You know, it's just these small businesses that have to deal with these large infrastructure problems, which is a big issue. Next question I've got here. If you're a freelancer, does the share capital, go ahead, Varun.
Sorry, just wanted to add something, right? So very quickly, for example, let's take Tibor. Tibor is based in Hungary. And since you're based in Hungary, Tibor, one office is also going to be there for another conference pretty soon. If you just write to Christina, I think she'll be able to provide you information because they'll be there and perhaps you can actually meet them in person. And now, having said that, let's say Tibor is based in Hungary, is from Hungary, sorry, and he's based in Austria right now, right? And he has clients that are from Indonesia, Switzerland, Canada, everywhere. If you open a company in Estonia, you're selling services, your company will be treated like a corporate tax resident of Estonia because you are entirely location independent, your economic activity is done in multiple locations, and you're receiving revenues from a lot of different places, right? Having said that, this is just a case example. It's not actually a gray area. If you do a consultation and you explain all the variables to Christina and the others, then you will be able to better figure out where you're exactly supposed to pay taxes and how it should work. But this is, I just thought I'll give you like a simple example of, you know, how it could work. Right? So yeah, Liam.
Tibor, I'd go with that. Personally, in my opinion, don't deal with I mean, I've had to do restructurings. I've had to do, it's cost me hundreds of thousands in terms of tax preparation and tax defense. And it's just not necessarily defense, but just preparation. And it is a headache that as you scale, particularly in software companies, is a very interesting problem. When we first started the business, we didn't think about tax planning. And now that the business is big, the costs have 100x'd because we've had to solve a problem that we started 6-7 years ago. So it's really, for someone who's just starting, so important that you structure properly. And it's so cost effective with one office.
I agree.
Yeah.
because
I'm sure you would, Christina.
it is an investment. A lot of our clients maybe see it as a cost, but it is an investment in order not to do things inefficiently, and it will save you time, money. It will save your nerves if you figure out the taxation from start. You won't have any nasty surprises that some of the other country tax offices are coming to and saying that you have to pay taxes on that profit. Because the truth is, each country tax office are competing for your tax money. Everybody wants to get their share, and they don't care that you say that I actually pay taxes there or there. You have to start to negotiate, not negotiate. You have to start to defend your positions. You have to explain what you do. You have to kind of fight with them. You have to stand for your rights in order to get the to be in the position that you are. So investing a couple of hundred or 300, 400 euros for the tax consultation or tax advice is the best money you can spend on when you start your business, because later on you don't have any bad surprises, and basically you make a foundation for yourself in order to succeed.
And that kind of connects to another question that I have here from Jua Nisa. And I actually can answer this question for her, but I'll let you answer it. If you are a freelancer, does the share capital fee still apply?
Yeah. In Estonia, we don't have such thing as a freelancer. Either you are doing a business with some kind of company form. So the most common form is limited company, which we spoke about here. And then yes, share capital applies in any case. The only thing is that you decide when you pay it to the company's bank account. When I say that we don't have freelancers in Estonia, it means that private person cannot send invoices to other companies. And if a private person does a work for a company, they are considered as an employment in Estonia.
So basically, set up a corporation if you're in Estonia. It's a good idea, generally.
Yes.
Right. Okay, a couple other questions here. I know we're running out of time, but let's just burn through a couple more. Barack, how can I open a business bank account for my company in Estonia without traveling to Estonia? And I also know the answer to this one, but I think that's something that a lot of people, like when you're dealing with the Estonian system versus other countries, you've really got to teach and understand how advanced the Estonian system is versus other countries. So how do you set up a bank account in Estonia?
So the quick answer is that to have the traditional bank account in one of the Estonian banks, you have to actually travel once. There's no online onboarding option there, because they want to meet the person and they want to identify you. Having said that, there is an alternative. These are called fintech providers. There's an online bank called Holvi, which is a Finnish bank, does all the onboarding online. We have TransferWise, we have Payoneer, and there's a lot of other payment solutions and payment providers that you can choose. Estonian company doesn't have to have traditional bank account. If it suits your business model, you can use only TransferWise. If it suits, you can only use Holvi. You don't have to come to Estonia to open the account. And with Estonian banks, there's another catch. In order to get the account in Estonian bank, you have to provide information or provide proof that you actually have connection to Estonia. It means that even though you have registered the company here in Estonia, you are residing in some other country, and maybe your clients are also there or in another foreign country. It's not enough for the Estonian banks to open the account. They want to see that you do business here in Estonia, that you have clients here, that you have employees and office maybe here. Maybe you relocate here and do provide your services from here as well. So I would say in first step, use fintechs, and if you have really the need to have an Estonian bank, traditional bank account, then build up your business so that when you're going to the bank office, then you are not a tourist. You have a solid business plan. You can bring out already clients from Estonia. Maybe you plan to have employees, so that you are going there with a solid, clear explanations, and bank sees you as a potential customer, not like some kind of burden.
Got it. There's a couple other questions here, but we're running out of time, unfortunately, so I'm going to leave it with this last one. It's from Elsie, and her question is, I'm Korean, and if I have income in euros, can I save all of my income in the European bank account and spend it right from there? So I think the question that she's in essence asking is, she's a Korean citizen. She sets up an Estonian corporation, or she sets up a European corporation. Can all of that income stay inside of that corporation, and she wouldn't get taxed on the income in Korea? So like, as an example, let's say she's selling digital services, which I'm presuming is what she's basically selling.
Yeah, basically it applies in Estonian case, that when she keeps all the money in the company, or use it for business purposes, or pays for outsourcing services and so on, then she doesn't pay any taxes here in Estonia. Now, if you speak that the permanent establishment is in Korea, then she has to double check.
You have to deal with the Korean government at that point and just double check.
Yeah, so if all the work is done from Korea, clients are in Korea, then probably there's some kind of registration. Let's say it's kind of tax number registration or something like that, that she needs to do there. And if it is so, then this Estonian company can be considered as a Korean taxpayer. So she needs to check also the Korean side.
Got it. Okay. I know that a couple of you guys have more technical questions. We're unfortunately out of time, but what I would suggest that you do is email Christina, sales@oneoffice.co, mention Running Remote, and you're going to get a nice discount, which is awesome. Thank you very much for that. And if you guys have any other questions, just redirect them to sales@oneoffice. And if you have any questions about Running Remote, I know we actually couldn't address them here, but if you have any questions, just go to runningremote.com or go to our Facebook page or anything else. So this is actually going to be up on our YouTube channel as well. So if you're interested in kind of looking in at any of the information that you missed in this live stream, you can go back to the YouTube channel and just check it out there. Go to youtube.com/runningremote for that. So thanks a lot, Christina. I know Varun's gone. I'm going to thank him as well. Anything that you want to leave us off with?
Thank you, everybody, and I will look forward to your emails, and I will be excited to hear what you want to do and how we can help you. And if you are coming to the Bali, then I'm going to be there as well. So seek me out, and we can have a face-to-face talk.
Have a coconut on the beach.
Exactly.
Discuss taxation.
Perfect venue for the meetings.
Exactly. All right, guys. I'll see you all in Bali. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.